So I have a privilege and an honor to welcome our former capstone students and interns. They will tell you a little bit about themselves, and they're also going to answer later questions that you have for them. And they will let you know how to benefit mostly out of this program. So please listen carefully and ask them as many questions as possible, because that will benefit and enhance the program tremendously and the process within the Fulton County. So Lotta, do you want to start? Introduce yourself and then answer all the questions within the chat.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lota Aguluwe. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Some background about myself. I graduated from Georgia State with my bachelor's in CIS. And right now I'm doing my master's in cybersecurity at Georgia State too. My time at Fulton County, I worked under Justina in I believe it was the Analytics, Statistics, Visualization Databasing project. And I think it was the first of its kind for that project. And, it was a pretty good project. My current role, I work at a company called Software One as an associate consultant based in Waukesha, Wisconsin, I believe. But yeah.
Thank you, Lotta. Angel?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. So my name is Angel Vo, and I graduated with the CIS major, just like Lota, from Georgia State. And my current role now is a global analytics manager for Expeditors for the Google onsite team. So I manage an analytics team across Amsterdam, Dublin, Atlanta, California. And this is my first job out of college. With Fulton County Center of Excellence, I manage the Trello team. So I was the team lead evaluating Trello, looking at all the functionalities, and then I created the documentation.
Thank you, Angel. And Nate?
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me? Is it working? Is my mic working or not? It's not probably working.
It's low in and out.
Okay, give me 1 second. Switch over to Switch over to this microphone. Maybe that's slightly better. Or I'll just speak up. Hey, everybody. My name is Nathan Harris. I am currently a software engineer at a company called EasyPost that helps corporations and companies with their package shipping. I originally graduated from the University of Georgia with a journalism degree, and then went back to school to Georgia State to get a computer science degree. And that's when I got involved with the Fulton County COE. At Fulton County, I worked alongside Justina as the, what was the acronym? Digital Transformation Business intern, kind of overseeing the KPIs and kind of just jumping around a bit from project to project in terms of everything else all the Fulton County interns were doing. I think that's all for question one.
Okay, let me check if Thelma is on the call. Thelma, are you with us? I don't think so. Okay, so let's move to question number 2. So what was your biggest lesson that you have learned from COE program?
I'll go ahead and start. The biggest lesson I learned was you really don't know everything you think you do. Because I remember entering that project, I thought I knew a lot about Tableau, and that's the software we used on it. And I had a lot to learn for that project throughout my time at Fulton County COE. And there was a lot of lessons learned building in that project, and we became better at it at the end of that project.
Angel, you want to go next?
Sure. I have a lot to say about this because it was really such an impactful experience for me working with Justina. And I learned a lot about empathy, connection, kindness. and also what it means to really take off the mask and be vulnerable with people, because that allows for people to really see you eye to eye as a person and to help one another and really uplift each other. Because senior year was a rough time. It was a really hard time, very stressful. And being able to openly share with Justina the stressors I had in my life and to receive understanding and kindness back really empowered me to bring that to all the other team leads as well, and to really make the most of it.
Thank you, Angel. And Nate?
Let me try to be succinct about this. What I learned at Fulton County, I learned a lot about, I guess, organization and cooperation among different teams, kind of like from a managerial standpoint. Obviously, the COE, a lot of you probably are working with different departments throughout the county on different projects, and there's a lot of communication that's involved to accomplish that. A lot of balancing of different needs for different organizations. Different people need different things or different requirements, and you kind of have to scope all that stuff out. So learning all that from a standpoint of how to actually organize large projects like that and kind of meet everybody's requirements was a valuable skill that I took away from my time at COE.
Thank you, Nate. Thelma, I have seen that you just joined us. She's getting ready. That's called dedication.
I was muted. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry I'm late. I just got into my Uber, just landed at Atlanta.
No worries. Thelma, can you introduce yourself? Tell them a little bit about yourself, where you're working, what was your experience with Center of Excellence?
Sure. Well, my name is Thelma Nara. I currently work as a programmer with a credit union that's based out in Houston, Texas, which is where I'm coming in from. We had a work event. But yeah, I work remotely for the most part. And my experience with interning at Fulton County was awesome. It was fantastic working with Justina. I mean, I'm sure everybody can't say enough about her. But yeah, it was I think the best part was working with a great team, and people who were willing to help and teach along the way, to get you to where you needed to be. It was impactful in the sense that there was a lot of, especially with Justina, I had a lot of opportunity to prepare, before I started really interviewing for what I wanted. And, there was always resource, and it was an interesting experience also learning to work with people from different, backgrounds, different walks of life, different, experience levels and things like that. But ultimately, it was just a altogether insightful, educative experience that kind of prepared me for, the real deal.
Okay, thank you, Thelma. And now we're going to move to the third question. What advice do you have for current capstone students? And Lotta, we're going to circle back to you.
Absolutely. My advice is don't be afraid to reach out for help. Use all your resources that you have around you, whether it's past students like us or people that are already part of the Fulton County. Reach out for help and use their skills to benefit you and your projects.
And Angel?
Can I revisit this in one moment?
Absolutely, no problem. Take your time. Nate?
I guess my advice would be to really kind of go for it. Fulton County, for a variety of reasons, it being a government, it being well managed, having a great program. Like everybody that I've worked with at Fulton County really appreciates you guys helping them as much as probably you appreciate them giving the opportunity for you guys to do the projects and kind of learn on the job. So really take advantage of everything you have. And, it's a great learning opportunity, honestly, to kind of get your foot in the door, not foot in the door, but like to get experience really. I don't know.
Thank you, Nate. And Thelma?
Sure, I think Loda said it very well. Take advantage of all the resources that's available to you while you're there. But more than anything else, don't just coast through the program. Make yourself known. Make yourself known. Be resourceful and impactful. Because as much as you're there to learn, right, you also have a lot to offer. And then, of course, don't wait till the last minute to start getting your ducks in the row, to get into the real world. While you're in the program, ask questions, build your portfolio, everything that you're learning, the stuff that can go into building your resume, right? So do that. Just beef up your resume while you're there. Learn new things so that you can have, new things and impactful things to add to your resume to get you ready for when you actually have to start putting yourself in front of potential employers. But amongst all the resources that you have to just that is a very huge, huge resource. Use that resource. Start doing the mock interviews and start, networking. Just ask questions and put yourself out there. But you don't want to wait till the last minute to start getting those things done. So, as much as you're learning from the program, leverage it so that you can be, in a better position to take advantage of what you learned when you start putting yourself in front of employers. I don't know if you guys can hear me very well, but yeah. Let me know if you can.
They will come back and they will ask you more questions later. Thank you, Thelma. And Angel?
Awesome. So to go off of what everyone has contributed, I would say that the best advice is to really self-lead and lead yourself, because this is an experience that you can really shape to be whatever it is that you want it to be. And you have a lot of power and autonomy and freedom to really make the most of this to make it what you want. When I got this internship, I, at the time, had not done any research on internships, and I didn't go to any career fairs, and I was a pretty poor student. I was always missing deadlines and forgetting things, and I had 2 jobs at the time. So finding out that I had an internship with Fulton County government was like tip of the iceberg. Oh no, what am I going to do? But there's a book called True North, and I actually was reading a book called The Art of Gathering, and the book was mentioned, and the author talks about crucible moments, which are challenging moments in our lives that shape us in some deep way and shift our lens on the world. So if you think about it that way, like what experiences have changed your worldview, you can make your internship experience that for you. I mean, this internship really changed my whole life. Like, I never thought that as someone with a 66% pass rate on exams would be doing what I'm doing now. So just remember that you have a lot of leadership in you that you can self-direct, and you can make this experience what you want it to be.
Angel, do you want to share with them your final presentation experience? What happened?
Yes. It's so funny. I think one of the greatest lessons I learned is you can try to prepare as much as you want for anything and everything, but life will always does what life does, and it will throw you all sorts of things, but never anything that you can't handle. So a week before graduation, I had my final interview with Expeditors International. It's a global supply chain and freight forwarding company. And the client that I work with is Google. And I was so nervous because the Trello team was presenting first. We were presenting at 10:15, and my interview was at 10:30. And I was coordinating with people from Dublin, Amsterdam, and California. So that's a 5, 6, and 3-hour difference. And that was the only time. So since I already had my Trello presentation pulled up and I already had the documentation pulled up, I was just openly sharing with the people who were interviewing me what I was working on, and just saying, pardon my franticness. And they were curious. And so I thought that I would screen share and share my presentation and my documentation. and it happened to be exactly what they were looking for. And that's all to say that no one told me to do that. Justina, all of the leadership, the professors, and all of the class leads as well, that was something that I just felt like, you know, it really brought the whole team together, my team, and also all of the other team leads too. So I thought it was impactful and valuable. And that goes to show that if you really believe in something, people will also stand by you.
And what happened by the end of the final presentation?
Oh, yeah, the most important part, actually. So every team had presented their project, all 17 teams, all 41 students. And by the end of the day, I had got my job offer. I got a phone call and I was jumping up and down. I was so excited. I actually shared to the whole Fulton County group. And this is coming from someone who missed class so much. I was in danger of losing financial aid for the entire time I was at Georgia State.
Thank you, Angel. And thank you for sharing. Appreciate you.
Of course.
So now we're going to open for questions. If you guys have direct questions to one of the panelists, please raise your hand. And if you are not in the place where you can speak, put your question in chat and I will rephrase the question to the panelists, okay? There's Christopher. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for your time. I appreciate your guys' insight on everything. I was just wondering, for many of us, you know, very close to graduation, I know we already got a story from you, Angel, about your job offer and everything. That's awesome. But just wondering if anyone had any general advice for job searches or, you know, interviewing in general.
I could answer for like job searches.
Okay, go ahead, Lotta.
I'm sure you're probably going on like LinkedIn or Indeed or, you know, all the job sites to look for a job. But sometimes, you know, those are great, but sometimes you need to look closer to home, as in talk to your professors, ask them about opportunities, you know, that might come up on their radar. If they have maybe an office hours where they're bringing somebody from another company, go to it, take some time and talk with them, because you'll be surprised of what kind of opportunities you can find with them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, anybody else wants to add to this?
Sure. So one of the things that I would suggest is don't get discouraged easily. For me, I kind of started early while I was, you know, before I even completed my program, I started looking. And what I got something which wasn't really what I wanted. And so I took it, right? I took it, but it wasn't meant to start until after graduation. And, you know, I kept looking. And after a while, it seemed like I would have no choice because it was a job offer that required me to ironically go to Texas. And I didn't particularly want to, but then, you know, I took the job offer and then I was still looking, and, you know, something else came up that I was more interested in. And it was so last minute, like I was literally supposed to go to Texas on Monday to go start training, and the job offer came in Friday for the one that I really wanted. And I took it, and the pay wasn't fantastic, but I took it anyway, knowing that I planned to, you know, either move as fast as I could within that company or move out if things weren't moving, you know, the way I wanted it to. And I stayed there for like a year, and I almost doubled my pay with another job offer. I didn't stay, you know, in one place within my tongue when things seemed like they were going the way I wanted it to. So I say all that to say, be resilient, and don't be afraid to take what comes, because sometimes we get caught up in wanting the big offers and we ignore the smaller offers. You can, take what you have and hold on to that while you're still looking. And then even if nothing else comes up, leverage on that right? You can get in there, get the work experience on your resume while you're still looking, while you're still networking, and just stay open-minded. It's easy to get discouraged if you don't get what you want, or if you're not getting something quick enough. But don't get discouraged. Nothing fantastic happens overnight. At least maybe for some, but not all the time. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't look like you're getting an offer as quickly as you like it to. And if you do get something in the area of what you're interested in and it's not exactly what you want, take it, start from there, and then it will open doors for you. But yeah, don't get discouraged. That's fine.
Thank you, Thelma. Angel, Nate, do you guys want to add to the question? If not, we're going to move to the next one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, pardon me. Okay. So there is such a thing called applicant tracking system, and you are all CIS majors. Everything is an algorithm. If you want to do some research and look into the applicant tracking system, that's one way to start. And my other advice is to add metrics to your resume. A lot of people write their resumes as completing tasks, and I look at a lot of resumes. I have 300 resumes in the queue right now that I'm looking with my own human eyes. And I feel like a lot of times whenever people do task-based things on their resume, it doesn't frame you as an achiever. Like going to college is an achievement, graduating college is an achievement, doing this internship is an achievement. So when you frame it that way, it makes it a lot easier for you to brand yourself and market yourself as a great candidate and also a potential leader.
Thank you. Nate?
I was just going to say, keep your options open, I guess. A lot of you guys are CIS majors, so if you're going to do either the tech side of things or the business side of things, there is so much, like almost every company needs some kind of business and some kind of technology person at the company. Starting out, if I really wanted to get into, programming, I thought, oh, I have to go work for, Google or Apple or Amazon. And like, it's amazing how many companies out there need some kind of in-house technology person or some kind of in-house, business person, be it marketing or advertising or project management or whatever. So there's definitely a lot more opportunities out there than you probably think. So maybe if you're not finding something in such a narrow category, if you expand it out a little bit, you'll definitely find something. And you might have to put in a year at like a job that's not necessarily your target. You might not hit your exact dream job right out of college, but you'll get there eventually.
Thank you, Nate. Okay. Chris says thank you. And we have another question within the chat. Hello, everyone. I was wondering about how you guys balance work, school, and interning back when you were in the program. Any takers?
I'll take it. So let's see, how did I balance work, school, and interning back when you were in the program? So when I was interning, I would do mornings at the office. Like I'd get up and commute into the office, maybe not as early as all the normal county employees, but still early enough. And then I would do, I don't know, a couple hours, and then I'd go to the classes I had for that day. And then if I had the ability, I would come back and finish up at the end of the day. As far as work, it can get kind of difficult. I had to balance a little bit with taking I had like a part-time job. So I would take some days I would just balance. Justino is really good at helping kind of balance your schedule. Obviously they know that you're students and that you guys most likely have additional jobs outside of Fulton County. So they're really good at working with your schedules, in my opinion. And then I'm sure I'm sure Angel could probably speak better about like balancing it with COVID.
Lota, would you like to contribute to that first?
Absolutely. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't already, keep a calendar of everything you do. Keep a calendar of your classes, keep a calendar of your meetings. All of that should be there, and look at it daily, have notifications to remind you, because of course we can't remember everything. You know, sometimes we miss stuff. So having a calendar where, you know, you have your scheduled stuff and you keep to it, right? You hold yourself to that calendar, you know, will help you out in becoming a better student and balancing out work, life, and school.
I have a lot to say about this because I did not get diagnosed with ADHD until 2020. And so I had lived for a quarter of a century not knowing why I couldn't keep up with any appointments, remember any deadlines. And I would hyper focus and really, really zone in on what was important to me. But then everything else, the maintenance, would fall through the cracks. So that was a big contributing factor to how I was able to manage my time. But also, I started to focus more on the skills that I was building, the experience that I was creating, and also less focused on the outcome and the result. Because I was thinking that if I missed this, then I would internalize that and feel like a failure, when really, actually, I was gaining an experience. Every time that you mess up on something, you're gaining the experience of becoming better. I have 85 plants in my apartment right now. And I used to be the designated plant killer of all of my friends. Like, they would literally tell me, do not touch my plants. And now I learned that people who are really, really good at something used to be terrible at it before. And that just goes to show that you can keep up with all the important things in your life, just as long as you know what to prioritize and you have a healthy perspective about if you do miss a deadline. Just be honest.
Thank you.
Okay, so for me, I'd say plan ahead and know what your limitations are. Plan ahead in the sense that even before I started doing my internship, I realized I was spending a lot of time on campus in the library and things like that. So I eventually decided, you know what, I'm spending a lot of time on campus anyway. Let me get a part-time job, student job on campus, which I did. So it was like I would be in the office where I was working, and I would be doing my homework. I'd be doing the things I needed to do in between classes. And then when I started the internship, I picked my classes based on what my because I would look at, okay, the hours that I wanted to work during the internship had to be later in the day, so that I would avoid early morning rush, or early morning rush particularly. So I would take classes that I could do, even though I wasn't a morning person. I would take classes that I could do in the morning that would keep me on campus also in the morning. And of course, in between classes, I'm doing, in between working my part-time student job on campus and taking my classes. So it was like I didn't have to be traveling too much to get to work because I was already on campus. And once I was done with my work and classes on campus, then I would just get in my car and drive to Fulton. And then I wasn't taking too many hours doing the part-time job on campus when I was doing the internship. So of course, another way I had to make up my income was, doing things like Amazon delivery, things that were flexible that I could do on my own terms at my own time, And so I would say know what your limitations are, and then plan ahead in the sense that before you when you're planning to take your classes, plan with whatever things will be happening around that time. So if you're going to be interning around the time you're signing up for your final semester or whatever, plan your classes around the time that works best for you. If you know that commuting is going to be more difficult in the morning to Fulton, then maybe pick hours later in the day. And like someone said, Justina and the folks at Fulton County are very flexible when it comes to working with interns around your time. As long as you can put in the number of hours that's required, they will allow you break it up. Actually, they don't give you fixed schedule and say, oh, you must come this time. As long as you can complete your tasks within, you can put in the number of hours required and you can complete your task when you're supposed to be working. So yeah, just plan ahead, plan way ahead. Don't wait till the last minute.
Thank you, Thelma. And we have next question in chat. And Thelma, I think you're going to be able to answer that next question as well. From your experience, hello everyone. In interviews, when you are asked to give example from your experience, what kind of examples would you recommend?
Okay. Okay. So first off, research interview questions very well, way ahead of time. And like I said earlier, use Justina as a resource and have mock interviews before you start doing actual interviews with employers. So when I say research interview questions, especially those questions that ask you, how would you handle this? Or how did you handle this? Or, scenario and things like that, so that you have ready answers and specific like examples that you can present. So it's not just to answer those type of questions in general. You have to be able to say, well, when I was on a project working with so and so, and this was happening, and this, and they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. I did this, I did that. What you're trying to communicate is your ability to be a team player, ability to handle conflict, those actual things those soft skills, right? That they're looking for in an employee, but you need to be able to give specific, even if you have to make it up based on what you've put in your resume, make sure that you make it up in such a way that it is relatable. It's actually an example, not just answering in general, in general saying, oh, I would do this, I would do that. No, you can make it personal and make it specific. But yeah, again, use Justina as a resource, because I had a couple of mock interviews with her and she would tell me, okay, you answered this good, but here's what you can say, and then take notes, write those things down, because if you're not doing those things, you don't want to wait until you're being interviewed and start trying to wing answers. You want to have prepared answers for as many possible soft skill questions as you can. And the one that you're asking is, so it's sort of one of those soft skill questions that might come up. So have prepared answers. They have common ones that I usually ask. In fact, I think there were one or two from the one that I did with Justina that came up in my actual interview. And I was like, I got this because I was prepared, so yeah. Have specific scenario examples. I don't know if that helps, but yeah.
Thank you, Thelma. Anybody else wants to add to this? Laura?
Yeah, I'll add to this, like when it comes to like giving examples of your experience, like you have, experience that's on your resume that you write on there, I'd say use this method called the STAR method. So STAR is standing for you're stating the situation, then the task, then the action, and then the results, right? So going through those steps when you're talking about something about your experience might keep whatever you're talking about like on task, like so I think that method of interviewing kind of it would be good for you if you find yourself like going off a tangent when you're talking about your experiences.
I would say hopefully the people who are interviewing you understand that you guys are college kids and that you guys don't come with 30 years of industry experience behind you. So that a lot of your experiences are going to be internships or maybe class projects. So while you don't have maybe a depth or a breadth of experience, go into the depth of your experience. So if you are just talking about just, some class project you did or something, really talk about it with a passion. If you show that, yeah, maybe in the grand scheme of things, the project you did for class isn't, groundbreaking or, super interesting. But if you show that you really are excited by what you did and are passionate about the work that you put into it, that really reflects well on the fact that for you, even something really small gets you really excited. And that's probably something that an interviewer is going to really take note of in your interview is the passion you have behind the work that you do, regardless of how big or small the work is.
And thank you, Nate. I would like to say that a lot of stories, people forget that they are the individual that they're selling in the story. So a story is about decision that you made, not what happens to you. So I think that's something that's really important to remember whenever you do interview, is think about it like, what decisions did you make and why? And think about the meaning behind that and your sense of purpose. Because if you think about a story like that, and you start to think of each of your experiences as contributing to where you are now and where you want to be, it becomes a lot easier to connect those stories and frame them in a way where you are the best candidate, like you are the perfect applicant. So really get to know yourself, and before you even get to the interview part, think about what you really want to do. Like, what do you really, really want to do? Because if you apply for a job that you really, really want, the person on the other side interviewing you, they can see that and they can sense that enthusiasm, excitement, and passion. And that really shows, because when I interview people, I don't look for the smartest, fastest programmer or the most tenured engineer. I look for the person who's a team player, who wants to help out other people, who have compassion and empathy for others, because they know that their work affects everyone else's work. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Angel. Now we have one more question in chat. So someone just convey, how would you manage yourself during the interviews, presentation, when they get anxious, they're slipping, the words are not coming in the right directions? What techniques do you use? And how would you help them?
I guess when it comes to interviewing, make it a conversation, or at least try to make it a conversation to make yourself more comfortable when you're talking to somebody. Of course, you know, never met this person, but rather try to make yourself more comfortable by, you know, speaking to them in a more conversational way, right? When you're talking about your skills or you're talking about your experience. When it comes to presentations, to be honest, I'm also nervous in presentations, but what I always do is always look around the room. I look at people's eyes, and when I'm speaking about things, I try not to look at whatever I'm speaking about, but rather look at it and look at the people around me and then talk about it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, turning it into a conversation is a really good way of doing it, because I think, was it the number one fear of people is public speaking? And if you approach an interview as like you have to give up there and give a presentation, you have to give a whole speech or a sales pitch, it will be kind of nerve-wracking. But if you do turn it into a conversation, a one-on-one conversation, or, you know, with the other person or however many people are actually interviewing you, it becomes more natural and you can kind of slow down. Also, just take a breath. Like, you don't have to sit there and get through your whole speech real quick. And, you know, I'm sure you went in prepared with talking points, but you don't have to rush through them. If you do take a breath and turn it into a natural conversation, it will work a lot better.
Yeah,
Advice I
those
have
are
for this
all.
is
Go ahead.
Thelma.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I used to be around a lot of people in entertainment, and they showed me this thing, and it's very silly, but it does work. Before you get into the actual interview, go like this, like the way the horse does. Because the reason why is whenever you have anxiety and stress, there's a physiological effect all over. So even though you know logically that you need to take a breath and slow down, just releasing that tension and like just like shake it out, like that really helps to reset a little bit. And then also remember that whenever you're presenting, you're controlling the tempo of time. So there's no rush on it. Take as much time as you need to convey what you want to say and to have that really stick to your audience. Go ahead, Thelma.
Thanks. Yeah, so I would say preparation is key. Preparation is key. Try to, you know, prepare as much as you possibly can before you actually start sitting in front of employers. And I've said that a couple of times. Do mock interviews. Do as many mock interviews as you can. Whether it is with your, you know, career counselors in school, whether it is with Justina, your friends, you know, research questions, possible questions that can come up. Like one of the things that I would do was, I forget the name of the app. I think it was, I forget the name of the app. One of those job placement apps that I applied on. If I got an invitation to interview with a company, I would go on the company's profile on that app and look. And sometimes you'll see people who have interviewed with them before will post some of the questions that they asked them in their interview, right? So you can look up those type of questions so that it kind of helps you. Man, why can't I remember the name of this app? I can't remember, but you can always research, especially like you can always research, interview questions for Google, interview questions for whatever company it is you're interviewing with, and see what sometimes people will post the type of questions they were asked in interviews. And you can kind of, practice answering those questions with people, that are around you that that you're able to do that with. And I like the STAR method that Loda mentioned earlier. That kind of helps you, that will kind of help keep you in check when you find yourself all over the place, right? If you start with the situation and then go to the task and then you action and then the results. You see how easy it is. It's stuck just from me hearing him talk about it at one time. So use that method when you prepare, when you do your preparation, when you're looking at possible questions that could get asked. And even if the questions you researched don't come up, it still helps when you feel like, okay, I'm prepared, because you never know which one will come up. And as much as we tend to get nervous and uncomfortable when talking to people, if you can maintain eye contact or, look at one person, even if it's only one person you can maintain eye contact with. Let's say you don't want to look at everybody, or you're not the kind of person that can look at everybody as you talk. If you can, find one face that makes you comfortable and focus on that person as you answer the questions, and try to move your eyes a little bit, but as much as possible, smile when you're making, contact and speaking, because even if you're nervous, your smile can help kind of boost you up, and it might help in a way to kind of cover a little bit of your nerves. But it also builds rapport. If you're not all formal and just rigid and robotic in your answers, it also helps build rapport. So even if they can see you're nervous, the fact that you're smiling through your nerves tells them that, says something about how you handle yourself when you're under pressure. So yeah, those are my suggestions.
I'd also say, like, you kind of have to reframe what the expectation of the interview is. I think a lot of people go into an interview thinking that they're going to be critiqued and judged. Think of it more as the interviewer has a genuine interest in what you do. That being said, don't overshare. Like, if you can't come up with the right words, maybe just stop talking and allow the interviewer to maybe ask a follow-up question, or maybe change the subject. Maybe you've given enough information. You don't have to, if you're struggling to come up with a whole 5-minute response and dive into your information, maybe that's been enough information, and the interviewer will have a follow-up question. I speak from experience of having sat with an interviewer who gave a 45-minute response to a question, and it really wasn't anything that we really needed to know. So sometimes brevity is the best choice of action.
Thank you for that, Nate. I completely agree. I interview a lot of people, and really, you can tell when someone is adding fluff to their answer, and you can tell when someone is just, they have like a sticky note on their laptop, like you can tell. So really just try to keep things very concise and really think about what you're saying before you say it.
Thank you, Angel. We don't have any more questions in the chat.
Sorry,
raise your
real
hand.
quick. Maybe
Bella.
Angel can touch on this as someone who does a lot of interviews, but I'm curious to know, and because this is something I would suggest, which is something that I did myself, but this is something I would suggest, but I would like to hear from Angel's point of view, if this has any impact from somebody who does a lot of interviewing. I do think that even if you think you tanked the interview, right? Or you think you did fantastically well in the interview, I find that for me, it helps me if I send, send an email or communication to one or more of the interviewers afterwards, thanking them for the opportunity to interview with them, and then asking for some kind of feedback, so that can, I don't know if it has any impact on the side of the recruiter, but I find for me, it helps me know what I could have done better, so that if I have another interview, I know what things to look out for, you know. And so I don't know, Angel might be able to shed some light on this. If you think that that's something that a recruiter might flag as a red flag if somebody is doing that, or if you would find that as something that speaks well to about the, you know, the potential candidates.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, Velma. I think it really depends on the person making the hiring decision. So that person, whatever they have on their plate as far as their workload and also how they feel about applicants in general, I think that that really dictates a lot of how someone might feel about that. Because for me personally, I love when people reach out after an interview, and I love when people ask me for feedback. I'm very happy to share feedback, connect on LinkedIn, and let them know that even though they weren't a great fit, I found another opportunity that is a better match. And that network of connections really, really helps. And it starts with what Nate and Lota said about get to know the person that you're interviewing. If it's conversational and you're funny and charismatic and just genuinely fun to talk to during the interview, that's very memorable. So if you focus on being memorable and you reach out from a good place, of a place of authenticity and integrity, I think that it really shines. But it really depends on the person making the hiring decision. Personally, I love it.
Thank you, Angel. And before we move to the next question, I want to mention one more thing. There are lots of questions coming along how we should prepare ourselves for the interviews. But remember, also when you're going for the interview, you also interview the company as well. And you do need to have those questions ready. I know most of you just leaving school and you think that's going to be my first job and I'm going to take any job. But you want to be in the environment that you're going to like it. You want to work for the manager that's going to be supportive. So you do need to have those questions ready. Anyone wants to add to this from the panelists?
Oh, you're absolutely right. You should always ask questions usually it's at the end of the interview. Ask questions to the person that's interviewing you. Ask questions about the company and get to know more about where you want to go, right? Ask about the culture, right? Ask, these important things to at least know more and to give the interviewer more insight into your interest in the company.
Absolutely. Ask them if they're going to invest into you. Are they going to pay for your master? Is there some compensation? So those are very important questions that you need to prepare yourself.
Also, I think one thing that I find that might be helpful too is when you have like a job interview, look up the company, Google the company, look them up, go on LinkedIn, look them up. If you know the names of the people that will be interviewing you before the interview, look them up on LinkedIn, look at their profiles, look at the things that, they're interested in. Sometimes that can help shape, the answers that you give in an interview. Because I remember doing an interview, and one of the people that was interviewing was the board on a nonprofit organization. And so when I was interviewing, when they asked me questions about the things that I like to do outside of work, I figured, okay, I would give an answer that appeals to this person, because at the time I'd just been placed on the board of the Association of IT Professionals. And so I was like, I talked about that. And then I talked about volunteering with a jazz radio station, things like that, because again, I knew somebody on there was into, on the board of something, so he was on the board of one of this classical music, houses or something like that. So I talked about the one little stint I had, volunteering for a jazz radio station and things like that. So just look up the people interviewing you. That will also help break the ice when you see them as people and not just these strange names of unknowns. That, look them up on LinkedIn, look up the company, and it will help also shape the kind of questions that you might have to ask when it gets to your point, because they'll always ask you, do you have any questions for us? Try to ask at least 1 or 2 questions. Don't say no because you're nervous and you want to go off. Have your questions prepared. If you've looked up the company and if you looked up the people interviewing you, you should have at least 1 or 2 questions ready to go when it gets to that part of the interview. And it shows that you did your homework.
Great feedback, Thelma. Thank you.
I have something to add to this as well.
Mhm.
I like to ask the person that I'm interviewing, what is your favorite part about work? And the way the person answers that can tell you a lot. Because if they're saying what they like about work, if they know right away what they love about work, then you can tell that they love their work, they love their company, and their job is fulfilling. If you see the person thinking about it really hard and kind of like wishy-washy, then that's like kind of a red flag. You can kind of ask for more clarification there. Maybe try to understand like what the person likes about work and the company, and then see if that matches your values. So these are all really good points from everyone. Like interview the company and get to know the interviewer, but also try to understand like how they're answering too, because the way that the person answers the question says a lot about what they find valuable.
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna open for 2 more questions. Please raise your hand. Don't be afraid. That's a great practice for your public speaking. And they are here to help you. Let me check the chat. Oh, thank you, Thelma. Appreciate you. I'm gonna post this on COE page. Okay, last call for the question. Okay, if you guys don't have any more questions, is there any other feedback that you guys want to provide to the students?
Well, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I know it can be overwhelming and scary and all of those different things, but don't be afraid. 2, 3 years, maybe even 1 year from now, you guys will be wondering what you were ever panicking about. So just, breathe, prepare as much as you can, and go for it. The takeoff part is going to be a little bit nerve-wracking, but you're going to get beyond that. And then when you do get beyond that, never stop growing, and know your worth, so that by the time you've put at least a year or 2 on your belt and you've gathered enough experience and you start moving around, one very important thing that you're going to need to learn how to do in the real world is negotiate your worth. Know your worth so you can negotiate when that time comes, because nobody ever really tells you that part. And some people end up working in one place doing something and not being paid their worth, and then find out other people are getting paid more than they are, and then they get frustrated. But what nobody tells you is you need to be able to know how to negotiate your worth. But I'm saying give yourself a year or 2 to build your resume first before you get to that part, so that you're not too fixated on the money. Right now, the most important thing is getting what's it called? Getting started, getting your your foot in the door. Yes, experience. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. But especially to the women, I'm going to say this again: know your worth and negotiate your worth. Because I've found out, and I hear the stats too that showed this, but a lot of times women get paid less because they don't know that they can negotiate. Yes, there's the other things that go into it, but a lot of times women don't get paid as much as they deserve because they're afraid to negotiate their worth. So when it gets to that point, learn, research, figure out the language to use when it gets to that point, but don't get in and stay stagnated in one place. Look at this beginning part as getting your foot in the door, getting the experience on the table, building your confidence, but as soon as possible, start looking to grow, wherever you find yourself. Yeah, that's what I wanted to put out there.
Thank you, Thelma. Nate, the last few words.
I don't have any last few words.
Yeah, always talkative.
I know, well, I mean, Thelma brings up a good point. You'll know your worth, and definitely just go for it in a lot of places. I don't have any additional thoughts. I'm
Do
sorry.
you want to share with them how important it is to have the soft and technical skills all together intact?
I mean, yes, it is.
We had
I
lots of
think,
discussions on that.
yes. I'd like to think that part of the reason, and Justine has said this before, part of the reason I got the internship at Fulton County at all was because of my journalism background and because I knew all the technical aspect of it, but I also was able to communicate that, which is surprisingly a not common combination in the world of software development. So knowing the soft skills about how to work with people and how to communicate are vitally important in any job you have and in any industry. So those are just as important as you having a specific degree or a specific certification in some specific technology or something. Just the ability to carry on a conversation with somebody and convey the information you need to convey is just as important.
Thank you, Nathan. Angel?
Yeah, don't send your resume as a PDF unless they ask for it. Try to always send your resume as a docx file. That's probably the most impactful thing that has changed my job search. And also the reason why is because when you send your resume as a PDF file, the systems cannot parse through all of the information on your resume. And please don't have a cute resume unless you know for sure a real life person with human eyes will physically look at your resume. Leave the cuteness for those occasions, but try to have like the most simple resume so that way it's easy to understand and readable and people can look at it and know exactly where to find what they need to go. And then the other thing is ask yourself why all the time. Like, why are you doing something? Because if you are doing something and you don't know why, then you're not going to put your best effort forth. And really ask lots of questions because you're only going to be new at something once. So really take advantage of that time and ask lots of questions as you are training. Because if you get to, say, the end of a sprint and you're like 3/4 in at your job and you ask something that you should have asked earlier, it will be painful, but it's better, it's now or never really. Ask right away, because if you don't, you're going to put yourself much, much more behind. But things
Absolutely.
always work out. Things always work out.
Great feedback. And to piggyback on this, Angel, there are never stupid questions. If you ask, if you don't know, you can be stupid only once. If you think that's way, you just don't know. Just ask as many questions as possible. And
Absolutely.
then you will know. That's how you're going to learn. Don't pretend you know something if you don't know.
I'd like to get Angel's perspective on the follow-up email. Like after an interview, how long or how often should you follow up?
It depends on the person who interviewed you, really. I interviewed with a company called Insight Global, and I got that interview because I was at Dragon Con and I was cosplaying as Lola Bunny. And there was a man with a whiteboard above his head, and it said, "Do you know data? I'm hiring." I walked right up to him, bunny ears and all, and said, "Hi, I'm a graduating CIS major at Georgia State. I'm currently in this internship. I would love to get a chance to know more about what you're interviewing for." And we had a conversation, and I ended up interviewing. I didn't get the job, but I was thinking about the interview challenge a little bit more after that. And then a week later, I reached out to the person who interviewed me. And I said, "Hey, I've been thinking about the algorithm challenge and I solved it. I know it's a moot point, but I would love some feedback." So really think about what value are you giving to the person, because everything is unfortunately a little bit of quid pro quo, slightly transactional, like what are you bringing to the table as well? Because if you're going to send someone an email, make sure that you're bringing something of value to them as well, such as a connection with you. So I think it depends really on the interviewer. If they seem like they would be receptive to it, then just use your best judgment. But you can usually tell by the question, like, what is your favorite part about work? If they start like stressing a little bit and start complaining about emails, then definitely don't send the email.
Thank you. And Angel, there's a question in the chat for you. And Lotta, you want to wrap up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Angel.
Yeah, definitely try to use a docx file if you can. And then extra step on that is a lot of companies use Gmail and Outlook. Send your resume to people on different systems and see if it looks fine on those systems too. Because whenever you use a company that has Gmail, it's gonna open up the resume in Google Docs. So always try to use docx, yes. Go on, Lotta.
Yeah, thank you. To expand on what Angel said about the resume, I would say, your resume is important. Of course, for the most part, you can only fit it on one sheet of paper, right? And use LinkedIn as like an extension to your resume. Use LinkedIn for things that you can't fit on your resume or you want to expand on. And if you want to improve your resume, I would say use the website called VMock, I believe. Yeah, vmock.com. I'm pretty sure it's free for Georgia State students at the moment, but I believe it's an AI tool to improve your resume, to add those action verbs, to add those not statistics, those numbers that you need to improve your resume. And yeah.
I have a great resource to share with everyone as well. It's a list of powerful verbs that will make your resume awesome. So it gives you all of the things that you possibly could have done at work and how to talk about it. So I'll share that with everyone as well. Thank you, Lotta.
Oops, I was muted. Angel, do you want to put that information also on the COE page so everyone can access later?
Yeah, I sure can.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Okay, wonderful.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
one last thing. Sorry. The 2-page thing, if all of your information was relevant to the job you're applying for, by all means, use 2 pages if you need to.
I agree on that. I also agree with Angel. Simple, no pictures of yourself, no colors on the side. It's no needed. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just checking if there's any question. And there's no more question. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you for paying back and contributing to the program continuously.
Real quick.
Excuse me, Thelma.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Sorry, I just remembered something about the
Go ahead,
resume,
honey.
which you taught me, which I find that helps. Because sometimes people will wonder why they're sending out their resumes and they're not even getting called once, like they're not even getting any calls at all. This was something I learned from Justina when I was in Fulton County. When you do your resume, right, of course, there are basic things, there's certain things that are going to be on all your resume, but also look at keywords in what the employer put in the actual job requirements itself, right? And try to get some of those keywords into your resume, into your skills or whatever in your resume. So for example, if they say they want somebody who knows how to, who is a team player or whatever, like keywords that you find in the job listing should try to enter your resume, because part of what that does is most companies use an algorithm or use something that reads through resumes and looks for keywords, and then they shortlist based on that, right? So if they have certain keywords or certain skills that they're looking for in the job description and none of it appears in your resume, then your resume might have, this system or whatever that system is that reads through will look at your resume as not meeting the basic requirements, and you won't even get called once at all. So look through the job description and look for keywords in there that you want to reflect in your resume as well, so that you can at least get shortlisted, for the first round or for the first picks or whatever.
Thank you so much, Thelma. That's 100% true. Because first, your resume will go through HR process and go through the algorithm. None of the HR people understand the job descriptions. It doesn't go to the manager. It goes through the HR first, and then it goes to the managers through the selections. So great point. Thank you, Thelma, for bringing this forward.
You're on mute, Justina.
Thank you for letting me know. Angel, I've seen you put the job scan. Yes, we've used that, and I showed this to my previous capstone students. That's a great tool. You can scan your resume against the job descriptions, and you can really see this like, oh, I match 30% and 40% or 80%. You want to be within 70, 80% of the job descriptions. You're not going to be 100%. Okay. So on that note, thank you so much to all the panelists. Again, big thank you for your contribution. Can you guys hear me well? Because it shows me that my internet connection is not so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
It shows me that my internet connection is not working properly. But anyhow, I appreciate you. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Thelma, Lotta, Nathan. It's a big thank you from myself and from the students for your participation and continuous support of the Center of Excellence.
Yes, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
invitation.
And now you guys all can say thank you in the chat to all the panelists as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I will send you guys appreciation certificate, so you guys can utilize this for some of your certifications if you guys need it for work. A big thank you on all the panelists. You guys can jump off if you guys don't have any more questions or suggestions. So lots of thank you to you all. Check your chat. It's very, very beneficial. You guys are impacting lots of people's.
Wow. Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Everything will work out. I promise.
Thank you, Angel.
You got this.
You got this, and everything will work out. You're welcome. Thank you, Thelma. Thank you, Nate. How is Denver treating you, Nate?
It's great. Just bought a house.
Congratulations. There you go.
I'll catch up with you afterwards.
Well,